Alyssa had spent years on the road as a tour guide, traveling from state to state across America. She used to joke that she had seen more motel ceilings than the inside of her own apartment. Through all those trips, she'd heard every kind of ghost story imaginable, stories from locals, from travelers, from late-night radio shows. But the one experience she could never forget happened when she was still a rookie guide, barely out of college. Back then, Alyssa worked for a small tour company in Southern California. One Friday morning, she was assigned to assist on a 2-day trip from Los Angeles down to a coastal resort town near Monterey Bay. The tour bus held 45 seats, but only 28 passengers had booked the trip, so the ride felt quiet and spacious. As the junior guide, Alyssa's job was simple help load luggage, check attendance, and assist the lead guide whenever needed. Before departure, she counted every passenger carefully. 28 people, exactly what was on the list. After loading the final suitcase into the luggage compartment, she climbed back onto the bus and headed toward the rear bench seat, the long back row usually reserved for staff. That was when she noticed someone sitting there. A woman. She hadn't seen her board the bus. The woman looked to be in her late 20s, beautiful in an almost unreal way. Pale skin, long dark hair. She wore a cream-colored sweater despite the warm California weather. Alyssa hesitated. The back bench normally held staff bags and equipment, including her own backpack. Still, the woman smiled politely, so Alyssa forced herself to stay professional and sat nearby. The moment she sat down, an icy chill spread through her body. The seat felt freezing cold, like sitting on fabric soaked in ice water. She glanced at the air conditioning vent above them and tried convincing herself it was just the cold air. 10 minutes later, while the lead guide cheerfully introduced landmarks around Los Angeles, the woman beside her suddenly spoke. "First week on the job?" she asked. Her voice made Alyssa scroll. It was unnaturally high-pitched and echoing, as if it came through a broken speaker underwater. "Still," Alyssa smiled nervously. "Yeah," she admitted. "I'm still learning." The woman introduced herself as Hannah. They chatted quietly while the bus rolled down the highway. But something felt wrong the entire time. Hannah's expressions seemed delayed, almost rehearsed. And every now and then Alyssa caught a faint scent of hotel shampoo drifting from her clothes. Trying to distract herself, Alyssa checked the passenger manifest again. No Hannah. She checked 3 more times. Nothing. The woman beside her smiled. "You won't find my name there," Hannah whispered. Alyssa laughed awkwardly, assuming maybe the company had made a booking mistake. When the bus stopped for lunch, Hannah vanished. Alyssa searched the bus. Empty. No sign of her. But after lunch, when everyone boarded again, Hannah was somehow already sitting in the exact same spot. That was impossible. Alyssa had personally stood at the bus door counting every passenger who re-entered. Yet she hadn't seen Hannah get on. The uneasy feeling worsened after they arrived at the seaside resort. Alyssa was assigned a private room while the senior guide shared another room with the driver. Exhausted, she collapsed onto the bed for a short nap. The room wasn't cold, but within minutes, she felt freezing. Not normal cold, the kind of cold that seemed to seep into her bones. Half asleep, She felt movement beside her, like someone lying on the other side of the bed, tugging gently at the blanket. She opened her eyes. Nobody there. Trying to calm down, she muttered to herself, "I'll shower in 15 minutes." Exactly 15 minutes later, the bathroom faucet turned on by itself. Hot water thundered into the bathtub. Alyssa ran inside. The faucet handle had twisted completely open. She shut it off, unnerved now, but still trying to stay rational. A few minutes later, the shower turned on too. This time, the scent of resort shampoo filled the bathroom so strongly it made her dizzy. That was enough. Alyssa hurried downstairs and quietly asked the front desk clerk for salt. The woman behind the counter didn't ask questions. She simply handed over a small paper cup filled with coarse sea salt. People who worked in hospitality along the coast had seen strange things before. Back in the room, Alyssa sprinkled salt around the bed and bathroom. The shower stopped immediately. That night during a beach gathering, Hannah appeared again. She walked toward Alyssa from the dark shoreline wearing a white beach dress that fluttered in the wind. Something about her looked worse now. Bruise-like black marks covered her calves. When Alyssa asked what happened, Hannah smiled faintly. "Some kids threw rocks at me earlier." The explanation made no sense. The marks looked too dark, too many. The closer Hannah stood, the harder it became for Alyssa to breathe. Her ears rang violently. A crushing headache built behind her eyes. Then Hannah suddenly asked, "Do you even want to talk to me?" The question came out of nowhere. Alyssa forced a smile. "Of course." Hannah tilted her head. "Then tonight, let me stay with you a little longer." Those words haunted Alyssa instantly. Later that night, even after the senior guide returned to the room, Alyssa still couldn't sleep properly. The king-sized bed felt crowded, as though a third person lay between them. Every time she drifted off, she dreamed of Hannah standing silently at the foot of the bed. The next morning, the tour continued to a historic wine castle along the California coast. Hannah stayed glued to Alyssa the entire time. Inside the underground wine cellar, temperatures dropped sharply. But around Hannah, it felt unbearably cold. She kept leading Alyssa farther away from the main tour route, into quieter quarters where no tourists wandered. Then suddenly, Hannah pointed toward a restroom hallway. "I'll wait here," she said. Alyssa stepped inside briefly. When she returned, Hannah was gone. At first, Alyssa assumed she had returned to the group, but then she realized something worse. She couldn't find the exit. The wine cellar she knew so well suddenly felt unfamiliar. Hallways twisted endlessly. Cell service vanished completely. No Wi-Fi, no signal, nothing. Panic crept in, finally. Alyssa called the lead guide, who came downstairs and found her nearly 10 minutes later. On the way back upstairs, Alyssa explained she'd been walking around with a woman named Hannah. The lead guide stared at her. "What woman? The guest sitting in the back row with me. There's no guest named Hannah." Alyssa laughed nervously. "She's been with us the whole trip." The guide stopped walking. "Alyssa, you've been sitting alone the entire time." Her blood turned to ice. Back at the resort later that afternoon, things became even worse. In the room sat a heavy vintage suitcase Alyssa had never seen before. She instantly recognized it. Hannah's suitcase. But the lead guide frowned in confusion. "That's yours, isn't it?" "No. It belongs to Hannah. There is no Hannah." Alyssa described her in detail. Neither the guide nor the driver recognized the description. 28 passengers, no missing names, no extra guest. Then the driver quietly said something that made the room fall silent. "I think something attached itself to you," hands shaking. Alyssa opened the suitcase. Inside, nothing but wet beach sand. No clothes, no belongings, just sand. At that moment, every strange detail suddenly made sense. The freezing seat, the bathroom water, the smell of shampoo, the bruises, the cold beside her in bed, the endless wandering inside the wine cellar. The driver believed the spirit had tried to lure Alyssa deeper underground in the cellar. If the guide hadn't called, she might never have found her way back. Terrified, the three of them dragged the suitcase to a dumpster outside the resort. On the ride back to Los Angeles, Hannah never appeared again. Alyssa refused to sit in the back row. Instead, she stayed beside the lead guide the entire trip, quietly praying under her breath while staring out the window. Nothing else happened. But for nearly 2 weeks afterward, she couldn't sleep without seeing Hannah's pale face smiling in the dark. And to this day, Alyssa swears that somewhere along the California coast, a lonely spirit is still boarding tour buses, searching for someone willing to notice her.